radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening, Fade to Black. Bespoke Radio for the masses. Yeah. How you doing? Today's Tuesday, September 14th, 2021. 258 days into the new year, only 117 days left. Let's do this, man. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of nowhere. That's right, a total undisclosed location. But it is beautiful. It is. You have no idea. You should see my new ceiling. It's cool. I got rid of that echo. Yeah. Throwing off my concentration. It's all good. I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the planets. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, Race Hobbs. Right. Don't worry, Bill. I know you're out there somewhere. All right. Very excited about the show tonight. We have two very special guests. Michael Avon Oeming is joining us with James Tynion IV. I was talking to James before the show. Can I say fourth? He said, yeah. Yeah, he has no idea what he opened up there. Fourth. I love it. And they are here to announce their new graphic novel and project. It is called Bluebook. It's extraordinary. We've had the links up for Bluebook all week, and I hope that everybody has checked it out. This is the first chapter. There's a lot to follow, and we're going to get into all of that tonight. This is a really big deal. Michael has been a part of Fade to Black since nearly the beginning, and to have in the comic world, which is huge, to have these two gentlemen together on this show tonight. It's a big deal. It's a very, very big deal. And now Michael's been on the show with us many times, and all of you Fadernauts know Michael. But James, this is his first time on the show with us, and I'm a little nervous. It's going to be great. So we've got two of the biggest and best of the comic world here tonight on Fade to Black. Tomorrow night, Richard Dolan is back, and it's going to be also a very big show tomorrow night. We are doing the Wilson Doc, the final cut, and that will be tomorrow night. Then, of course, Thursday is another Fader night with open lines all night long. Now, this is a very big week, very big month for Fade to Black and all of you Fadernauts. After Thursday night's show, I will be jumping in the Fade to Black Jeep, which will be packed up and ready to go. and I am going to head down to the Conscious Life Expo. And that will be Thursday night. I will arrive Thursday night. If some of you Fadernauts are already at the hotel Thursday, I will see you there. And so that's what is going on, because this weekend I will be hosting the Conscious Life Expo. And it is September 17th through the 19th at the LAX Hilton. This is a very special weekend. We are doing 2 cities, 2 countries. That's Los Angeles and London all weekend long. Now, I'm going to be hosting the Los Angeles version. I can't handle 16 or 18 hours of work in one day, but that's what's going on. And if you can't attend live and in person, because this is a live and in-person event, you can stream, and I understand that, and you can just go to ConsciousLifeExpo.com and pick up your streaming package where you will get both. You'll get London and Los Angeles. There's all kinds of streaming options there for you, and you can go and check it out. Use the promo code Jimmy, okay? And you do want to do that. Nice discounts. Okay. All right, so that's what's going on. I will be back Monday for another week of Fade to Black. After we get all of that done, then I'm going to head out to Laughlin, Nevada, and Ronnie McMullen and Life Change Tea and the driver of their super truck, Connor McMullen. I am going to suit up and take a ride in that super truck, and I'm going to be broadcasting live. I'm going to be live streaming. It's going to be great. So that wraps up our crazy month of September. Okay, follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. I've got Twitter right here. It is live to my right. It's live to my right. And hello to everybody out there all around the world dialing into the show tonight. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox on Twitter. And I just love these gifts. And Ken, Just Saying, Corey, Tara, you guys are the best, man. And Kaz, you guys starting off my night every single night. Tri-scale taco. Is it Tuesday? Is it Taco Tuesday? Oh, man, I know what I'm doing after the show tonight. I'm going to hop in that Fade to Black Jeep and go get me some tacos. All right. Yeah, see, that just reminded me. Very busy day around here getting ready for the Conscious Life Expo this weekend. Okay, hashtag F2B is the sandbox on Twitter. Chat rooms are open. I hope everybody is behaving. Let's get to the breaking news. Very sad announcement today. Rest in peace, Norm Macdonald. Unbelievable. Norm was one of Saturday Night Live's most influential and respected cast members. He died today after a 9-year private battle with cancer. He was just 61 years old. Oh, one of my favorites. There's no question about it. Very, 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 very funny guy. Very sad. Rest in peace, Norm Macdonald, 61 years old. Wow. Okay. It was announced today, NASA and their astronaut, Mark Vande Hei, will remain on the International Space Station until March, giving him a record-setting space flight. The mission extension, which was predicted before Vande Hei's abrupt launch in April, will see the veteran astronaut spend about 353 days living and working on the ISS. Now, all of this according to his tweet posted earlier today. That will break the existing record for the longest single space flight by an American astronaut, 340 days, set and currently held by Scott Kelly. He's going to break that by 2 weeks. Absolutely incredible. All right, well, I chose to add this to the breaking news today because I find it very interesting. There's a lot of stuff going on around and in the world of Britney Spears. Today, Britney Spears closed her Instagram accounts. Yeah. Saying goodbye to her, wait for it, 33,090,396 followers. Holy crap. The move comes just 2 days after she announced her engagement to her longtime boyfriend, Sam Asghari. And also, in the news, I guess Britney's dad is trying to bow out of that conservatorship of her $60 million estate. And I guess he says that Britney's ready. I can't even believe all of that ever went down. She's an adult. If she's crazy and she's an adult, then that's it. It's hers. It's hers. Incredible what she's gone through. Okay, now also, today, it was announced in a press release that an alligator is suspected of killing a man in Hurricane Ida floodwaters, and that alligator has been found with what appears to be human remains in its stomach. 504-pound alligator. It was captured in the area where Timothy Satterley Sr., a St. Tammany Parish man, was last seen after he walked in floodwaters following Hurricane Ida. Investigators will work with the St. Tammany Parish Coroner's Office to verify that those remains belong to Timothy Satterley. Crazy. Sounds like a Lifetime movie. It will be coming out soon. Well, all right. Normally I don't touch this, but I have to. Another conservative radio host has died of COVID. Pastor Robert Bob Enyart, who swore off the COVID-19 vaccines, died yesterday. Enyart is one of several conservative radio hosts who passed away recently. Dick Farrell, a Florida-based talk radio host, passed away from the coronavirus in August, as did Nashville-based host Phil Valentine. Mark Bernier, another Florida-based conservative radio host and an outspoken opponent of masking and vaccines, also died of COVID-19 last month. An August 2021 COVID-19 update to the radio show's website said Enyart and his wife Cheryl, quote, have sworn off taking the Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson vaccines. Well, it only took a month for him to get the virus and die after that post. Let's get this show cracking. Happy birthday to today. Sam Neill is 74. Jurassic Park. My favorite Jurassic Park. I mean, the first one was good. Second one was pretty good too. But for me, it was 3. Jurassic World was pretty good too, but it was 3. The aviary, you remember that long, the stairway with the cover on it? You remember that scared the crap out of me. I liked 3. All right. Also, Aha's Morton Harkett today is 62, singer and frontman of Aha, and of course, the vocalist on Take On Me. Yeah. Might be, it's close. Man, I'm going out on a limb here. Is it the greatest music video of all time? Take On Me. I remember I went to the Video Music Awards at the Universal Amphitheater. This would have been 1985. Yeah, I'm pretty sure 1985. And Take On Me, I think, won every award that night. I mean, I believe so. Somebody look it up. Post it up in Twitter. Let me know if I'm right. Okay. Our dead guy's birthday today is Amy Winehouse. 1983 to 2011, died at the age of 27. Amy was a member of the National Youth Jazz Orchestra and then signed a deal to Simon Fuller's 19 Management in 2002 before signing a published deal with EMI. Her debut album, Frank, was released in 2003, but it was her follow-up album, Back to Black, went on to become an international success and one of the best-selling albums in UK history. At the 50th Grammy Awards in 2008, she won 5 awards, tying the then record for the most wins by a female artist in a single night and becoming the first British woman to win 5 Grammys, including 3 of the General Field Big 4. That's right. Best New Artist, Record of the Year, and Song of the Year for Rehab, as well as Best Pop Vocal Album. Of course, Amy was plagued by drug and alcohol addiction. She died of alcohol poisoning on July 23, 2011, joining the 27 Club, you know, that infamous list of musicians, artists, athletes, and actors who all died at the age of 27. After her death, Back to Black became the UK's best-selling album of the 21st century. Happy birthday, Amy Winehouse. Sad. She was great. She was amazing. On this day in history, OTD, 1959. A Soviet rocket carrying the flag of the Soviet Union crashes into the moon, becoming the first man-made object sent from Earth to reach the lunar surface. And then the United States warned the Soviet Union that sending the Russian flag to the moon gave the Soviets no territorial rights over nothing. Yeah, on this day in history. Fader fact. Before Houdini died, he and his wife agreed that if Houdini found it possible to communicate after death, he would communicate the message, Rosabelle, believe. That's right. We all knew about that. We never knew what the secret message was, but that's what it was. Rosabelle, believe. A secret code they agreed to use because Rosabelle was their favorite song. You always wondered about that, didn't you? Well, I just gave you that Fader fact. Vetted. Tonight, we have very special guests, Michael Oeming and James Tynion IV. They are here to announce their new graphic novel, Bluebook. We posted all of the links to it in all of our social media feeds, so you can go and check it out right now. It is amazing. It's 2 colors. Oh, no, 3. Is black a color? Is black a color? Black is all colors, right? If you take all the colors, you mix them in a bowl, right? So anyway, check out the new graphic novel. It's called Bluebook. We have the links up. And tomorrow night, Richard Dolan joins us for the Wilson Doc, the final cut. Thursday is another Fader night with open lines all night long. I'm going to rush through that show because Thursday night I'm hopping in the car and heading down to the Conscious Life Expo. All right, let me hit this River Moon coffee. Yeah. rivermoonwellness.com. You know, and this is the deal. You want a show like mine? You want a voice like mine? It's easy. River Moon Coffee. See, hear me now, right? Now, just listen to the difference. Hear me now. You hear that? I like my coffee, Doc. I can't say it without River Moon Coffee. That's right. Promo code F2B Blend. 15% off of your order today. Go to the Amazon store. Go to the website. Do something. Get the Game Changer Blend. Change your life. Change your life. You can be a radio host. That's right. Well, I rarely talk about what I'm about to talk about, and you're going to find out why. I just don't do it. I don't. Learn my lesson. Learn my lesson early on. I was warned. All right? There's a reason why this audience is so cool. Me. Right? You see, one of the early lessons I learned about being a radio, or anything for that matter, or host, is that you need to keep your mouth shut. My opinions truly do not matter. And I really don't care about them. And I really mean it. And I know that people ask me my opinions all the time. They want to know on a variety of issues. They're like, hey, Jimmy, what do you think about? But honestly, I do my very best to keep all those things to myself. I do. I work at it. But here's the thing. if you ever do express your opinion as a show host, radio, TV, or whatever, you'd better be right. All too often, almost 100% of the time, anyone who opens their mouth is wrong. Every single time. Politics, religion, sports, UFOs, conspiracy, cooking show. Doesn't matter. Be careful. Don't say a thing. Keep your opinions to yourself because you'll be wrong. Everything that has happened over the last 4 or 5 years, all of it, all of the yelling, the screaming, the fighting, the extreme opinions on every frigging thing you can imagine, have all turned out to be wrong. That's right. Now, I'm sure some of you are asking yourselves right now, what is Jimmy talking about? Is he talking about anything specific? No. Well, yes, I am. I'm talking about everything. But back to my point. You had better be right. If you're going to say something stupid just to have shock value, you had better be right. You see, wrong is not an option. Anybody who has had a loud mouth thinking that it's A, cool, or B, thinking that it sounds intelligent, like you know something that nobody else knows, and that you're sharing your brilliant mind with the world, both situations will always have a very bad ending. Now, let me be very direct. COVID. You see, whatever your thoughts are about COVID, especially as a show host, keep them to yourself. Whatever it is. Whatever it is. Because whatever it is, you're wrong. It's just the way the universe works. I was with someone a few months ago, someone who has been on this show many times, and this person loudly said some things to a group of people, for effect, by the way. But it went something like this. Sort of directed at me, by the way. It went like this. It was like, and I'm not kidding. The COVID vaccine is going to cause everyone that takes it a long, horrible, painful death. And I'm thinking to myself, what? Now, this person went on and speaking about it very loudly, dramatic, and just and I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute here. Everybody? Right? Me? So, and my response back was, you mean, let's say half the world. Let's say half the world so 3.5 billion people. All of them, 3.5 billion people are going to die a long, painful, horrible death because of the vaccine? Yes, they are. It's a fact. I have an insider. Have you read? I was like, dude. So today, I walk out and I get hit by a car. I die. That's from the COVID vaccine? What are you actually saying here? You need to be very careful. And whatever it is, whatever your opinions are, if you are going to go down that road, dude, you're wrong. You're wrong. But a plane goes down, somebody has a heart attack, whatever it is, slip and fall by the pool, whatever it is, it's caused by the vaccine, you need to watch yourself. And for those, and I just talked about these 4 conservative radio show hosts, you need to be very careful. I don't want anybody to die. I don't want, for any reason, right? Whatever it is, it sucks. And, but if you're going to step out and you're going to give your opinions on these things, you better be right. You have to be right. And in this case is, they were wrong. You need to keep, there was nothing that needed to be said. Nothing. Because in the end, your influence as a host, as a personality, and in this case, this loud voice person in this group of people, you have influence and people listen to you. And you're going to go and say something like that, which is obviously factually wrong. It's just wrong. It's not right. That's why I keep my opinions to myself. Because I'm never wrong. Think about that. And that's the lesson that I've learned. So if there's anybody out there, an aspiring host, you want to go and be something on TV, or you want to get into movies or whatever, you want to start a podcast, keep your opinions to yourself. That's all you got to do. You got to do. That's it. That's all you got to do. And if you do that, you're in the safe zone and you're never wrong. And before anybody says, well, Jimmy, you said, no, wait a minute. I may have stated warnings in the past. Be careful. Don't dip your toe in this completely. Stay back off of it. Stay in the safe zone, because then you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Let things play out. Let the universe play out, whatever it is. And what, it doesn't matter if it's sports or cooking, right? Should I? I'm going to leave this in the oven for 10 more minutes. That's a wrong decision. The universe is going to fix that for you. Just keep your opinions to yourself. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. I'm very excited tonight. Michael Oeming and James Tynion IV are going to be here to announce their new graphic novel. It is called Bluebook. That's right. These 2 titans of the comic book world are creating something for us, for our community. It is great. If you haven't checked it out, go and do that. But this is for the rest of the world, too. Think about that. Tomorrow night, right here, Richard Dolan joins us. Thursday night's another Fader night with open lines all night long. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. That's right. And I'll be right back with our guests right after this short break. Stay with me.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. Introducing the Game Changer blend from Rivermoon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. with wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all River Moon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2B Blend for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRAradio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, folks. It's troubling times, and fear is pushing emotions, which in turn pushes health the wrong direction. Do you ever get an ache because life is uneasy? Try Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea works on your digestive tract, helping to move food through quicker and comfortably so your health is spot on. Life Change Tea may not help with world issues, but it will help with your digestive issues. A glass a day helps keep the intruders away. So, change your life today. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. If your health game is off, get on by ordering Life Change Tea. Getthetea.com. And while you're on our site, look around at the great non-GMO organic supplements. And if you're a sales shopper, go to our specials page and see what's for you. I've been drinking the tea for 12 years, and I'm sure glad for its health benefits. Again, that's getthetea.com. Getthetea.com. The tea that makes you go.
Fadernauts, when you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the planet.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey. You're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, very special guests. We have two, Michael Oeming and James Tynion IV. You got to love that. They are here to announce their new graphic novel series. I think it's called Bluebook, written for our community and the rest of the world. Tomorrow night, Richard Dolan joins us. We're calling this show the Wilson Doc, the final cut. Thursday night's another Fader night with open lines all night long. But tonight, it's all about Michael and James. Michael is the Eisner, Harvey, and Eagle Award-winning co-creator and artist of Powers. He is also an executive producer on the Powers TV series from Sony PlayStation, which ran for 2 seasons. He began his career as an inker. That's not even a word, Michael. I'm going to talk to James about that. He was an inker at the age of 14, has written and drawn Thor Ragnarok, read Sonja, Batman, Superman, Dick Tracy. I'm in Dick Tracy. Hold on a minute. Michael, that's the Dick Tracy I'm in, right?
I think so. Well, you're in Powers for sure.
Okay, we'll come back to that.
You just look like Dick Tracy.
We'll come back to that.
and more, but is best known for his creator-owned works such as The Victories, my favorite, The Mice Templar, Takio, The United States of Murder, Inc., which is also amazing. I think I'm in that one, too, and many others, mostly with his partners Brian Bendis and his wife, of course, Taki Soma. He's currently hard at work on new projects, including Bluebook, and James Tynion IV is a New York Times bestselling and Eisner Award-winning writer of comic books like The Department of Truth, which is amazing, by the way. Something is Killing the Children, and the new digital comic series Bluebook, co-created by the one and only Michael Avon Oeming. He lives and works in Brooklyn, New York. All of their links are up at jimmychurchradio.com. And I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black Michael Avon Oeming, and of course, for the first time, James Tynion IV. James, how are you tonight?
Thanks for having me.
I think he stuttered. Michael, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing all right, buddy. Just working, and listening to you keep me company while I'm drawing the UFOs and stuff.
You know, James, I'm going to tell you this really quick. Having Michael as a close friend and at my serious disposal to answering my phone calls, this is what I do with Michael. I call him up. I go, Michael, I need another drawing of me. I need this one big. I need it like 6 foot tall. Michael's like, dude, I'll have it to you in a few hours. And so now you walk through my house, and I've got all these framed portraits of me. It's just extraordinary.
That sounds...
Yeah, it is amazing. Listen, James, you're cutting off. I want you to go to your settings and turn off the microphone automatic settings and noise cancellation. Turn both of those off. And while you are doing that, I'm going to go over to Michael and say, Michael, how did you and James meet? And we'll get to the ideas for this project in a second. But is the comic book world just so small that everybody knows each other?
I'd say thanks to Twitter it is. Social media has like its downsides, of course, and things we're aggravated about, but it has its upsides. And part of that is making connections with other artists and other people in your industry and the readers as well. So I just knew James online. Luckily I've been around a really long time. So some of the people coming up now they read my work when they were young, so like they're just interested in what I'm doing. So James and I started talking about his book, Department of Truth, because I had read this first issue and just kind of blown away by he figured out how to do a quote fresh X-Files, right? So I just loved it. And I don't remember if I asked him if I could do a cover or if he just asked in Twitter. We just kind of started going back and forth and started talking about weird stuff, and our interest in that. So I did a cover for him, and then we just started these rolling conversations that eventually led to what's happening now, which was just this opportunity that happened. And, I'll let James tell the full story, but it was crazy. I had been talking to you about doing some sort of, quote, journalistic approach of doing like this fringe stuff, like not adding to it, but just telling the stories. And he calls me up one day with this thing and was like, I just want to tell Bluebook centered stories that are, sticking to the facts and just being as real as possible. And I was like, holy crap, I can't believe it. Like this guy who knows all this weird stuff. Like I don't have to explain anything to him. Wants to do this weird bucket list thing that I've always wanted to do and never saw an opportunity for. So that's kind of how we met. It was just social media, being in the same circles, and then trusting each other.
Yeah, it's really kind of funny, James, because Michael has been expressing to me a lot over the years how to go full on, right? Because he's always dabbled in these subjects that he's been interested in, and he's woven them into his work. But this is the first time where he can just go full on tinfoil hat. And that's pretty cool. James, in the world of comics, I have found Michael has a very unique style. I can pick him out now. I never thought I could do that before, but I know him so well. I see his work and I know it immediately. Was it the same thing for you?
Oh, absolutely. Like, I think that the moment, like, I became familiar with Michael's work on Powers, which I did read while I was growing up. Like, that was one of my favorite comics when it was coming out, and Michael's art was a huge part of that. And I have always been drawn to, I've never been a huge fan in comics. There are a bunch of books that have a much more realistic superhero style. And I say realistic, even though realistic is not the real word that you would use when you look at those pictures, but a more rendered face and all of that. But I have always leaned more towards the styles that can capture all of the action and all of the emotion, but lean more into the cartooning. With that, all of comics is built on. And Michael has been one of my favorite artists in that regard for my entire, comic book reading life. So I, was thrilled to. It's one of the great joys of sort of coming up in a field is that you start interacting with people that you've been looking up to for years and years and years. And then the moment comes where you can basically just reach out and be like, hey, I have this opportunity. Would you want to build something together? Thankfully the right moment struck for this book, for Bluebook. And I mean, it really did all start with just a couple of back and forth messages, because I had started tweeting that I was developing the first UFO centric issue of my Department of Truth series, which is a series set in a world where basically it's about subjective reality. It's the more people believe in something, the more true it becomes. So it's about a secret department in the United States government that makes sure that the right beliefs stay true and the wrong beliefs do not become true. So it's basically a book about a secret government department preventing conspiracy theories from becoming fact, and the ways in which they are losing and the ways in which they are winning, and the larger question of should the government have any say in what's true and what's not. So that's sort of the heart of what Department of Truth is. And I'd been excited to dig into the UFO side of things because I'd been fascinated with UFOs since I was a kid. And I started tweeting that I was reading all of these, formative texts of, UFO lore, and I was absorbing all of it. And I was just like, I want to live in this world. I want to, I want to do so much more, but I was only writing one issue. And that series is about so many different things that I couldn't just grab the steering wheel and just turn it all the way into UFOs. I needed to keep it a life touch over there. So it was something that I kept leaning into. So I started chatting with Michael about please send me anything I should read, all of this. I was rekindling a real childhood love of this fascination and these stories and all of that. And then that basically just sort of percolated over the next year until the moment came where it was just okay, here's an opportunity to create a whole bunch of new comics and and create them fast, and they are and they can come out the way that you want them. You don't have to worry, is a single issue going to sell or not? We basically have the first year of this already funded. So it was just okay, what would you go that you're convinced there is an audience for, but you don't have to try to prove that there's an audience for, you always have to do when you're selling a single floppy comic book issue. And so it was just this is where, basically this is all on my Substack, my newsletter platform that's letting me do all of these different books. I'm sorry, I'm rambling in six different
I love it. I love it. And let me tell you, I dived into Department of Truth and I backed up and I went, this ain't fiction, man. Oh, this is scaring me to death. This is awesome stuff, and I encourage everybody to go and check out Department of Truth. I mean, for our audience, it's not fiction. They're just going to read it as a historical document. But there's another part to this. So let's actually back up for a second. The world of UFOs is complex, and there are those that are a part of this community that, just like any genre, it doesn't matter if it's sports or any jazz music. Once you get into it, there are people that know everything, right? They know everything. Yeah. They know all of the relief pitchers for the for the Dallas, whatever, the Chicago Cubs in 1987, and they can tell you these things. In the world of UFOs, it's the same thing. You need to be factually correct. Oh, that's good, Michael. Thank you for that.
I don't know what the hell.
Man, what are you doing? Yeah, I got to tell you, James, he's changing the backgrounds, and now he's got both of us sitting together at a desk. And it's actually, he's laughing.
I'll fix it during the break. Just
yeah, you have no idea what you... No, leave it. That's fine. But you, James, you can write about anything. You can go in any direction, and you're going into the world of UFOs. I have to ask you why.
That's a great question. And I mean, I think part of it is a lot of it all comes from the research that I've been doing in and around the Department of Truth. And this is something that, Department of Truth is a book that I started researching around 2015. I had the rough concept, and I started pulling together all of the resources that I wanted to play with there. And part of it is that part of the Department of Truth is kind of about structuring and ordering information, at least in terms of the research side of it. It's taking the entire history of, esoteric belief and and sort of putting it in an order where you get to see the patterns that repeat themselves in all the different sub-communities that make up the whole thing. And there's something really, really beautiful when you lay it all out together. But but also, of course, given the subject matter, also very frightening in places. And I think it says something about humanity and about America in particular. And I think America, given the fact that it's a country that is it is an idea. The country itself is an idea. So therefore it is both its greatest strength and its greatest weakness. And it's something that who is telling the story of America, and who are they telling that story to, and who's buying and who's selling what at any given moment is a really interesting question to ask. And it's one that you can even go back before the creation of America to see. It's who is sort of controlling the narrative? Who's writing the history books at any given moment, and who is just deciding this is the truth. This is the core, the core facts. And then you always get the people who are just outside of that. And a lot of times the people who are just outside of that are just people who are fascinated by the things that don't fit into the truth. And because it's a very human fascination. It's what are all the questions that just get you excited, that just make you wonder about the world. And, they might frighten you sometimes, but it also sort of it's a positive thing, because it's about okay, the world is bigger than what the history book says it is. And back in the day, so much of it was, the fact that there were these civilizations, far off civilizations, that wasn't common knowledge. It was only very educated people knew about that. So there was something, there was sort of taking this secret hidden knowledge of these old ways of thinking and all of that and bringing it down. And that's where the word like occult comes from and all of this hidden knowledge and all of that. So I'm basically long story short, I'm a nerd. And the thing that I'm like, but I'm nerdy about history, and I'm nerdy about weird history and the ways in which, we kind of repeat the same things over and over. And especially the ways in which, very wealthy people in every different moment in history have tried to control what the average person believed, and the way they've wielded that control against the people, and in order to control them. And it's something that you can see happening all around us today. And it's one of those things where it's just like, so much of it happens like right out in the open. Like that's the thing of the modern world is, I think when you look at conspiracy fiction from like the 60s and 70s, it's all like happening and, in secret and all of that. But like Silicon Valley are designing machines that basically rewrite how the human brain works. And they're doing it like in broad daylight and like doing tech symposiums about how effectively they're doing it. So all of this is like, like big fascination for me. And UFOs have always been tied into that because they were my way in when I was a kid. And I saw 2 movies like too young I'm 33, about to turn 34. So it was like, right at the late 80s, early 90s turnover. Like I saw on home video, I saw E.T., which scared the crap out of me, and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which I loved. And it was one of those things where, E.T. just scared me because it's a horrifying potato monster that like makes inhuman noises. But it's the, Close Encounters captured this like really incredible wonder and this sense of like, this bigger universe and the beauty in that. And it's still scary in places, and you see the cost of like chasing after something that, is a little ephemeral and all of that. You see, you see a man like, his family fall apart in the pursuit of all of this, but then he still finds something at the end of it. And so there is something beautiful in that kind of storytelling. But I think one of the big things for me was right at turn into the 90s. Like you had the X-Files, you had all of these things, and, UFOs were in the culture in a really dominant way. And so the way that translated to be like a kid, there were all of these like reference books that basically had like little illustrations and little like, paragraph blurbs describing some of the most famous UFO encounters like in history. And that's how I learned it all. It was all in these like strange reference books that I would pick out of my like middle school library. And then I would like steal the books from my library and I would take them home, and like me and my friends would like study all of them. So like that was the first time that I really, started leaning into it. And then when I started doing research for Department of Truth, I was excited because one of the things that I wanted to dig into were the Men in Black, because obviously like the Men in Black and their connection to the idea of like, like a faceless government agency and all of that. And then the more metaphysical elements of the Men in Black and all of that, like it all deeply fascinated me. And I remembered all of these stories from when I was a kid. And I went to like go look for the equivalent of those reference books. And they don't exist anymore.
No, they
don't.
don't.
They don't make them for kids anymore.
No, they don't.
And then,
let me jump in before
I'll talk forever.
Yeah, hold on. Before we head to the break, I wanted to ask you this about UFO knowledge. When you're at Comic-Con and somebody, you're on a panel or you're sitting signing autograph, whatever it is, but those nerds come up. And they want to ask about Batman and the storyline, and they're going to ask you something. It reminds me of like Galaxy Quest, right? Okay, so, but now you're going to have people coming up asking you UFO questions and incident questions, and you need to be on your game, right?
Yeah.
You've got to be able to respond. You can't not know something, right? Are you prepared for that?
No, it's an exciting like entering the community like this is an exciting and daunting prospect, and I am very, but I'm happy to be here because I mean, to be fully blunt, I am like what I would call like an enthusiastic skeptic. I am someone, I love the stories that the stories minimizes it, and that's not what I want to do. But it's one of those things where, like, the thing that draws me into UFO stories and also draws me into stories of cryptids and draws me into stories of encounters with the unexpected or unexplained is that it is people who brush up against something they don't understand, and then it's how they tell the story of brushing up against something they don't understand to the world. And the ways and the commonalities and ways that people like will bring those stories to the world, that is the thing that fascinates me more than any other aspect. Like, all the other aspects fascinate me endlessly, but that's the thing that really, gets my brain cooking. So it's one of those things where, I think that also like helps me, because if you're talking about like what are the stories that I think the most about, it's still the Men in Black stories. The Men in Black stories are the ones that it's like, I am like endlessly fascinated in, because the weirder those stories get, the more fascinated I get, because there are, just the ways that it all intersects together. I'm sorry.
No, that's great. And by the end of this show, there will be a knock on your New York City door. Let's take our break right here. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, the one and only Michael Avon Oeming and James Tynion IV. We'll be right back after this short break. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
This is Billy Carson with ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Forbidden Knowledge TV has just reached its 1-year anniversary. That's right, 1 year. And as a show of appreciation, we are giving all new subscribers a free 30-day trial of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's 30 days to binge watch thousands of movies, documentaries, conferences, workshops, lectures, yoga classes, meditation courses, and so much more. So log on to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv from your computer or mobile device, or get the Forbidden Knowledge TV app on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon, iTunes, or Google Play today, and use coupon code 30daysfree. That's coupon code 30daysfree on ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Because you never got that pony you always wanted. Damn it. Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network. KGRADB.com.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer, Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roasted to the dark side of fade to black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2B blend for 15% off of your order today.
Hello, I'm Taki, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. We're also Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Michael Avon Oeming. Avon is there to separate Michael from all the other Michael Oemings out there. I get that. Same thing with James, though. James Tynion IV, because there's a lot of James Tynions running around in the world. Now, let's actually talk about Bluebook for a second. Two things I want to address. Let me get to the first interesting point. It's an easy book to color, Michael. Taking the day off.
There's a strong tradition in comics and illustration of using like a monochromatic color. You know, and it's a fun and it's a cool thing, and so it's fun to do. And James was thinking it before he even spoke to me. You know, he was like, you know, just kind of black and white and just use the blue tone color. And of course, I was thinking the same thing. And yeah, it was exciting. It was exciting to do.
I think Taki said, "I'm not coloring this one."
She would love to. I mean, she's just as much into this. You know, we've all sucked her into the world.
You know what I enjoy about it is, you know, that sepia black and white thing adds a historical perspective to it, right? And you get that vibe out of the gate. Was that the intention, actually?
Yeah, there's sort of two intentions. I mean, one of the things that I was very much influenced on, and it's just a personal thing, but hopefully it comes through even for younger readers. When I was growing up, one of the things that I loved that pulled me into this world was Leonard Nimoy's In Search Of. But when I was watching it, it was on like UHF channels with like static, and the footage had already degraded and stuff, right? So it had that kind of like pre-found footage kind of look to it. So like I wanted to draw this analog, meaning I wasn't drawing on a computer. I wasn't using digital stuff. I'm just using an old-fashioned pen and brush and letting the mistakes be mistakes, letting there be a rawness to there. And also coloring it with just a single tone brings it back to that older, like kind of almost a 50s feel or something, which is where Bluebook started. So all those sort of aesthetics play into what I'm hoping becomes a feeling that the reader will get when they're reading it.
Now, what we're talking about to the audience so they understand is how many we're talking about. This is done not in black and white, but is there 3 colors?
Well, I draw basically what it is. I draw it in black and white, and then in computer I'll do the color tones. There's 2 different shades of blue.
Right.
And I use it in a very consistent way until something creepy happens. When the creepy stuff happens, then the blue will change a little bit, or there's some extra texture. I'll do something that tells you, kind of like tilting a camera, in a horror film, that tells you something's off. So we've got these strict color rules that we stick to, and then we break them when some crazy stuff starts to happen.
Yeah, I mean, are you ever going to go like butt nut crazy and add red?
I don't want to say that feels like a spoiler.
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna just go nuts, James. He's gonna go nuts.
2 colors, my God.
Fuchsia. And James, why the first chapter is Betty and Barney Hill. Now it's certainly cinematic. It's epic. It's wide. It's you know what I mean. It's Panavision. It's a great story. But why Betty and Barney Hill out of the gate?
That's a really good question, and there are a few answers to it, because when we started talking about this, actually I'm going to go a step even further back from that. So about a year ago, when I was researching the UFO issue of Department of Truth, and I was focusing very much on the Men in Black stories, I picked up a bunch of books. I was refreshing my memories of stories. I was reading stories for the first time, and especially focusing on they knew too much about flying saucers. I think Gary Barker, about the Albert K. Bender experience with the Men in Black, and which definitely kind of kicked off a lot of stories about Men in Black and helped build towards how I was using them in Department of Truth. But the thing that I recognized pretty early on is that when I was looking at all of these different sources, that the sources that I was connecting to the most were the ones that were actually written contemporaneously, the ones that actually came from the eras where where the events actually had took place. And so in doing my deep dive, I picked up a number of UFO books from the 1950s and 60s, just old beat up copies. And one of them was this old beat up copy of The Interrupted Journey by John G. Fuller.
Bam, bam,
yeah.
bam,
and
bam,
bam. Not to knock any of the other books. I think that was one of the best books, as a book itself, that I was reading in all of that. But it was, it brought me back to hearing the stories for the first time, because you talking about all of those reference books, the Betty and Barney Hill case was in every single one of those, because it's one of the most famous, it's one of the most famous cases in American history. So it was something that I started picturing it in my head. And so when I started, and while reading it, I could picture it in my head as a comic. And I had the thought back then, it's there should be a comic that tells this story in the same way that, not beyond the more action or salacious comics. There are a lot of nonfiction comic books out there in the world, and there are lots of books about all these different things. And one thing that has hit me over and over again, working on Department of Truth, is the absence of this kind of genre that I feel used to be more common. And I think that, and what I've sort of taken to calling it is I call it sort of the true weird genre. It's the strange cousin of true crime. Like it's people having experiences with the unknown and and actually accurately telling those stories, because the issue is that so many of the so many science fiction movies and so much fiction that deals with UFOs and all of this, or not UFOs, it's like spaceships and stuff like that, in contemporary fictional movies, like they are no longer in conversation with the stories that inspired the original science fiction authors to create the original works of science fiction. They are in conversation with with the fiction itself. And once it's in conversation with the fiction itself, it becomes this like little echo chamber, and it doesn't speak to something deeper and greater. But back when the fiction actually interacted with the true stories of people experiencing something deeply strange and in the world, there's something rawer, and that's why I think there's some of the science fiction that was happening contemporaneously with the the initial few decades of UFO sightings and all of that in the 40s and 50s and 60s. There's something that's still there's something still so vibrant about those stories, and there's a reason why we just keep remaking those stories now. But it's like, I do think that these stories should be out there and all of that.
Now, when you read The Interrupted Journey, which I've got my own history with that book too as well, and that's why I reacted like I did. But it's much more than just an abduction case. And when you read the book, you find out very quickly that it's terrifying. It's a very, very scary story. That book was written 60 years ago, right? 60 years ago. And you, as you pounded through the book, and it is a page turner, did you see and start to feel the horrifying, the terrifying aspects to the Betty and Barney Hill story? This wasn't unicorns. This was something totally different.
And you might the hint may be in titles like "Something is Killing the Children," but when I'm not dabbling in UFOs and conspiracy series stories, I'm a horror writer. That is my primary. That's my bread and butter. And so seeing seeing the potential in telling a true story that is honestly very affecting and very frightening and very human, because that is the other thing that I think stands out about the Hill case, is that you get a real sense for both Betty and Barney and the sort of people they were and all of that. And part of it is just there's so much there are so many resources that actually allow you to interact and read their own voices and their own accounts, and that honestly allows that gives you this insight into them, because a lot of times when these stories are told, they are not it's very, the focus is very much on what is being seen rather than who is seeing them, and without the who is seeing them, it would be a very dry comic. That's right. It wouldn't make for something like that. There's still value in that, and that's something that Michael and I have discussed. Is we want to do these big, multi-chapter accounts of these big cases, like the Hill encounter. But then we also would want to then do some shorter ones where it might only be 10 pages altogether that tells a more complete thing, but you can't really go deeper than 10 pages because you don't have the details of that person's personal life and all of that stuff. It is a lot more at this point, decades later, what you really have left is what they saw. Now, and so you can do something there.
And let me jump in, because now you've got your illustrator, your inker, which is, by the way, James, there's no way that that's a word. but he knows the very fine details of these historic cases. Michael, do you find yourself being James's editor in real time? Have you had to correct him on any historical nuggets?
No. I may know more to the extent of like I've been in the world longer, more consistently. But anybody who knows me knows my memory is just not there. You know, like I need to like flip through a book to tell you. Like one of my favorite stories is the guy in Texas, the cop, and I can't remember his name. You know, who saw the thing that kind of looks like a Tic Tac, and so I need to reference stuff. You know, so James has a much better memory than I do. So sort of between the two of us, we check each other a bit here and there, and we're just a great resource for each other. Like, hey, I can't remember the name of the what kind of car did they have, Betty and Barney Hill? And I'm like looking through the books, trying to figure out which thing it is and stuff. And I could just text him or our very capable editor, Greg Lockhart, who know nothing about this world and just started reading, you know, all the books and stuff. So like our team is dedicated to educating ourselves on the whole thing, and it's great to also just be refreshed too.
Now, I wanted to ask you about that, James, because you've brought up fiction and nonfiction a few times tonight. And are you focused on no creative, right? No creative adjustments to the historical narrative? Are you staying, are you treating this as, a nonfiction documentary?
I think that no matter how reliant we are on the sources and all of that, because this is an adaptation into a medium, there are going to be there'll be liberties, there'll be simplifications in certain moments, but the thing that I think I've already simplified in the first account is I think they stopped that car like 5 more times. To be like, but that's not a compelling read, is to basically be like, you know what, we're stopping the car again to step out and look at the saucer that was flying, that was following them. But it is something that what I am focused on a much more is not sensationalizing. It is trying to take the honest heart of what happened in their accounts, and capture that and capture that genuinely, and not try to add a spin to it, not try to add anything. We're trying to present information rather than going into this with a real thesis. Beyond, the only thesis to what we're doing is that we think these stories should be told, and I think ultimately, I imagine, and this is something that we're talking about a book that is still in process. We're in the process of writing it. We're working on it chapter to chapter, but I imagine it'll end with with Betty's interactions with the community. And her pursuit to, and her desire to, her pursuit for answers, and also her pursuit to help people who had experienced what she had experienced and all of that. And it's the importance of these stories continuing to exist in the ether of American culture, and beyond American culture, the original stories need to stay alive. They can't just all be replaced with, pure fiction, because the real stories say something real about.
It's already sensational, right? Yeah. It's already big, right?
Yes,
it's already there, and you have a great guy to run with. But I'm going to go here, and Michael, you can tell me to stop if I'm going too far, which is this. You are going to eventually, you're going to have to get into the hypnosis and those sessions, which are truly emotional. I'm staying in bounds here, but yeah. It also goes into a zone that is very, what's the word? I'm going to use the word adult, Right. It goes into a very adult area. And it's terrifying both as a reader of the interrupted journey, but knowing what they went through. But that's an opportunity, just if you stay word for word there, to present something that is terrifying, that is horrifying. And is there a better medium than yours to do this with?
Well, I don't think there is. And I mean, part of it is I'm a comic book evangelical. Like, I'm evangelical about comic books. Like, comics are my life, and I want to be making comics for the rest of my life. And I think that there is a tremendous power to comics because in the way that readers can interact with, like, readers control the pace at which they read a story, which means that, as a writer working with an artist, like, our job is to find moments where we arrest the reader with either our words or with the images, and really sort of, hold them in place so they don't just, scan past a moment. And so, honestly, like, dealing with the hypnosis part of this story is going to be very challenging, but it's a creative challenge that I'm excited for, because, like, one of the other things that just led to the creation of this book in general is, this is my first time adapting from source material, and it's, and I have about, obviously, like, I have the Interrupted Journey, I have Captured, and then I have a number of other books that, like, come at it from, like, it's only an entry in my UFO encyclopedia, but it's like, but honestly, the bibliography in the UFO encyclopedia then helped me, go in the direction of a bunch of other stuff. So it's like, I love doing research. Research is, like, that's my favorite part of working on Department of Truth. That's my favorite part of working on Bluebook. And it is something where I'm going to want to be creative. I'm going to want to be all that. But it's also one of those things where, the other challenge in the hypnosis, especially the hypnosis that come right after the dreams that Betty talked, it is how to avoid, honestly, repetition. Like, because it is one of those things where it's like, I'm still trying to, as much as, like, it's staying true to the material while also making a good reading experience for someone. And the creative, like, the creative questions that you kind of have to ask yourself as you are adapting something on the fly are like, it is a really, really fascinating process. It's unlike anything I've worked on before, and it's incredibly thrilling to just be able to sort of tap into all of this and see where it takes me. But which is a lot to say, is like, this is one of the next things I need to write, and I have a lot of thoughts about how I'm gonna, like, write it, and then I'm gonna talk to Michael about how I write it and all of it. But that's the big question of what comes next as we get into the story of what happened when they returned home to New Hampshire and started realizing that what happened to them was much more than what the already terrifying events that they remembered taking place.
Now, Michael, you get to draw some flying saucers, right? How cool is that? You get to get into these species and grays and all of that, and the interior of flying. How cool is that for you to finally let loose?
It's really cool. It's intimidating because, especially in the Barney and Betty Hill story, you tend to start to think you know them as people when you're working on it. So you want to represent what they saw as carefully as possible. One thing I didn't do, there's a scene where Barney first describes the aliens, and one of them, he has these mixed images, or what we call something memories, like screen memories. Right. So, like, he initially recalls in his dreams or something that seeing them in, like, captain's uniforms and being very human-like. And he even has an image of one of the quote grays which didn't quite look like the Greys we know now. So I made sure to model it off of their sketches, not of modern Greys, but like how they described them. But like in one of them, he described the guy having a hat on. You know,
he
like,
did.
I am not going to draw a Grey with a hat on because it's just not going to translate. You know, in this horrifying moment, this bizarre scene isn't going. You know, it might work in film, but I don't know how it would work in the comic. So it is fun to draw this stuff, but I'm really trying to channel the people who experienced it as much as possible. So when I was drawing these pages, there's actually not a lot of shots of the ship that follows them. We do see it pretty clearly a couple times, but I'm concentrating on their experience. What were they feeling? Betty had a very kind of Zen-like thing where it felt like she, while not welcoming the experience, allowed it to kind of happen to her and to soak it in and think about it. Barney fought it every step of the way. So I'm drawing Barney with a lot of pain in his eyes. Like what he's seeing, he's not just not understanding. He's not just afraid. It's breaking his mind. It's you know, that's the feeling I get when I listen to like the hypnosis tapes and his horror and the way he describes it regularly.
Yes.
So that's the stuff I'm really, really trying to capture.
The book, The Interrupted Journey, it's a great reference for sure. But the other part is those tapes. James, yeah. I'm sure that you've listened to them, and the emotion about what is going down there is pretty incredible. How did that make you feel?
I mean, it's overwhelming. It's like it's incredibly affecting. And it's one of those things that it is, I don't know, it's like, it's daunting. It's daunting to approach it as someone who's like, you know, going to be interacting with all of this in the way that we are, because it's just like, there's a responsibility here for, to capture a really, like, a very human response to something that, you know, was like something fundamentally inhuman that was happening. And it is this, you know, and like, I don't know, it is something that I am, you know, I desperately want to get it right. That's the big thing. But I mean, just like personally, I found it deeply, deeply affecting. And it is, you know, and I think even, you know, when I was a kid, obviously I wasn't listening to those to the tapes, but it was I remembered like the fact that, you know, because when you're a kid and you're fascinated with UFOs, it's just like you always want it's like, oh, if I saw one, I would just be like so happy that I saw one. And it was just like, even then, as like a 5-year-old, understanding is like, this is someone who is not happy about what was going on. And then on top of that, there's, you know, the other thing with Barney that I find so fascinating is like, Betty is obviously like, she's more willing to engage in the possibilities of what happened to them and all of that. And Barney is resistant the entire time, partially, you know, like you could ascribe that to, you know, what would ultimately come out of those tapes, or you could also just ascribe it to the time and the fact that it's like, there is on, you know, any level a kind of violation that happened, because it's, you know, it's just the idea that if for any moment the agency of your life was taken away from you, and just the idea of missing time itself is a violation. It's like all of these things are just like, it's something taken from you. And it's something that, like, grappling with that, as, you know, like as a man, as a, like, you know, it's especially as, you know, a black man in the 1960s, it's just like, there's so much going on, with Barney Hill. He is, you know, like, you know, I always want to resist like calling him like a fascinating character, because it's just like, no, he's a fascinating man who was real, who existed in the world. And, you know, which means there is more of a responsibility to tell his story, with with tact and grace.
Yes. We got to take our break here. And, the other aspect, which is something that we've got to be very aware of, it's one thing to have the issues of an interracial relationship in 1961. It's a whole other thing to add alien abduction on top of that, right? That's a whole other issue you don't need. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. More with Project Bluebook when we come back after the short break. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com. This is Jimmy Church, and I invite you to attend the 20th Annual Los Angeles Conscious Life Expo live and in person this September 17th, 18th, and 19th at the LAX Airport Hilton. Connect with exhibitors, community, thought leaders, and friends as we begin to recreate the world. You can also watch the expo from the comfort of your own home. Live stream from the main stage in Los Angeles and from the main stage in London. Truly a global simulcast event broadcast around the world. Live stream and in-person expo tickets are available now. I'll be your host all weekend long from Los Angeles. And on Friday, it's my Ancient Secrets and Earth Mysteries themed segment with James Keenan, Caroline Corey, and William Henry. And on Saturday, Daniel Sheen and I sit down for a one-on-one interview live. We have an amazing lineup of 25 speakers, including Bashar, Gail Thackeray, Kimberly Meredith, Whitley Strieber, Stephen Bassett, Daniel Brinkley, and Lisa Garr. Please visit ConsciousLifeExpo.com for tickets and info. That's ConsciousLifeExpo.com and use that promo code Jimmy for a special discount. Fadernauts, when you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Right now, supposed to talk to you about preparewithjimmy.com. Yeah. Prepare. Get some food. Get a water purifier. Get the system. Well, you know what? Just do all of that. Click on the links below. Head over to jimmychurchradio.com. Click on the links over there and make sure that you are prepared for you and your family. But I want to get back to this conversation. Welcome back, James and Michael. This is what I find so interesting, that right before the break, I'm sure Michael caught it. I said Project Bluebook, right? Okay. I'm not sure. James, did you see the series?
I have seen a few episodes of the series. I've not seen the whole series.
Okay, we were talking about this earlier, but I liked my Freudian slip, so I can segue back into that part of the conversation. The problem with that series, and I noticed it from episode 1. Suddenly, they took a huge amount of artistic freedom to get creative and I guess help the storyline along. Okay, but serious inaccuracies and the dust up on social media and people were picking it apart and I was doing the same thing and I got caught up in that. And what I ended up doing was I had to let my mind go. Michael, I know you heard me talk about this many times on the show, in that I just had to let it go and just enjoy it as nonfiction, right? and just enjoy it as fiction, not nonfiction, and just go with it. But you will have critics if you bust off of that. And that is something that is very important, not only in the illustrations and the way that things are presented, because somebody's going to say, man, the saucer didn't look like that, dude. Right? The grays didn't look, no, the star map, right? And you've got to be, this is something you have to be cognizant of, right, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, we are absolutely trying our best to be as accurate as possible. To the point of, like, there's things I'm figuring out now that I normally do in comics that I can't do in this story. For instance, at the beginning of this, you'll notice that Betty's wearing a jacket. I don't think she wore a jacket. I just surmise that when I'm drawing a book, I think about things like the environment. Where are they? They're driving a car at night. It's like September. So I'm thinking it's cold and they're in Canada and stuff. So I don't know if she has a jacket on or not. I don't have any recall of listening to any of the stories or reading them where the jacket is an issue. We talk about the dress. We talk about his clothing. We talk about, like, the shoes being scuffed up. Like, that's all recounted. But I put a jacket on her, and afterwards I'm like, damn it, I don't think she had a jacket on. So, like, even to that extent, we're trying our best to stay on top and make things right. And the beautiful thing is, because we're digital first, this will eventually see print. If there's something that really bugs us, without being nitpicky, we can go ahead and fix it if we choose to. So we are definitely doing our best, and I feel the responsibility in the eyes of the UFO community watching us.
Yeah, Reddit will fix it for you. Yeah, yeah, no question about it. And now I wanted to, because James earlier, and I find this interesting, where you guys want to ride this to a conclusion, right? And, getting out there with Betty and her dealing with the community and so. So there's all of that in-between stuff. Now, I just brought up the star map, which happened much later. Now, it happened, obviously, in 1961, but what happened in 1969, 1970, 71, 72 with the resolution of the star map and how that was revealed, is that something that you are going to include somehow, because you've got a linear time that you need to deal with? So how far into the conclusion are you guys going to go?
That's a really good question. I kind of feel like we have to take it that far, because it is one of those things where, like, so many of, so many of these stories don't even have that kind of resolution. Like that kind of resolution so rarely offers itself in a story like the Hill Encounter. And so actually being able to tap into that, and wield that, like, I do think that as the story moves on, like the first 3 chapters tell the initial encounter, like it's the first 30 pages basically, that it is the first encounter with the UFO, but it's before, and we see the missing time and all of that. I'm sorry to spoil, but I have a feeling this community is pretty familiar with the course of events. But it is, and then in the next section, like I'm sort of, the way that I'm thinking about it is kind of in sort of 3 acts, and it's like the first act is the initial encounter. The second act is the uncovering of, okay, this is like there was more going on and all of that. And then the last chapter, I think, will probably, or not the last chapter, the last act, which will probably be another 3 chapters, will deal with the, I think we'll deal with the Star Map, but we'll deal with the, but all them becoming national figures. That element of the story, and it'll also deal with Barney's death, like, because I feel like that has a key place in this story as well, and so it is something that all of those pieces together, I think it does sort of situate into those sort of 3 types, arenas of story to tell.
Now it's called Bluebook. So are your future editions going to focus on cases from Bluebook, or are you going to venture out beyond that?
Our goal is to venture out beyond, like, Bluebook, and it's also, that's why it's not called Project Bluebook and all of that. Bluebook references the way in which we're telling the story, almost, it's more than anything else. It's, Bluebook, Project Bluebook, obviously, being an investigative entity trying to find the truth about UFOs. We want to tap into the idea of, approaching UFOs from a considered, from trying to lay out the facts. Like that we want that to be a core priority. And then secondarily, we want to sort of capture that, like, the vibe of Bluebook and all of that. So when the Betty and Barney Hill section of Bluebook ultimately comes out, whether that's Bluebook Volume 1, or if we give it its own, like, catchy, title, it's like That Night in New Hampshire. Like, I don't know what we'll go with. It's hard to beat The Interrupted Journey. But it is, but it's like, it might be title a Bluebook story. And then you sort of see so we're still figuring that out. So your readers understand, so your listeners understand, like, one of the things that's exciting about this whole project is, and I got into this, I talked about this a little, like, in the first half hour, is the fact that this is all happening right now. It's all being released digitally as a part of my Substack newsletter. And, I had the, Substack reached out to me with a grant to create new comics on their platform, which means that the people who, follow and subscribe with a paid subscription on that service will, they'll see a number of different comic projects come out from me, like, over the course of the next year. And Bluebook is the first of those. It's one that's, like, deeply important to my heart and all of that. But it's kind of a cool thing, because normally this part of the process happens behind closed doors, because you're basically getting to see the production of a graphic novel as it happens. There is no other project where, literally, Michael just turned in page 30, and I am turning in the script for, the next 10-page chapters in the next few days. And it's all like, we are working and all of that. And I'm sure there will be, like, once it's finally released, there'll be revisions and all of that stuff. So you kind of get a sneak peek at the first draft of what we're putting together. And we're making sure it's a very professional. First draft makes it sound like it's a little looser around the edges, but it is something where we are, like, for people who like seeing the creative process, who like seeing how all these things sort of come together, I encourage you to go to the link and subscribe, because you'll see this, this whole project come together, and then hopefully continue beyond all of this. And the other thing that I wanted to mention to your listeners here is that so Bluebook is going to run basically twice a month. There'll be 10-page chapters released on Fridays, and you can go. There's the Substack address, but I bought the URL readbluebook.com, as a simple, so you don't have no one has to worry about spelling my last name. Just readbluebook.com, and it'll take you directly to the Bluebook page on my newsletter, and you can read the first chapter of Bluebook for free. And then, hopefully you like it and you subscribe, and you can, see these come out basically every 2 weeks. And then interchanging with them, I have a new feature that I'm going to announce to you guys that's not going to be announced actually until this Friday. So, don't tell anyone just yet. But as a kind of extension of what I've been doing over on the Department of Truth, in one of the summer storylines on Department of Truth, we started getting into the cryptid side of the Department of Truth with our 2 issues focused on Bigfoot, and that, like, those were our 2 highest selling issues since our first issue. People love Bigfoot. And so we're going to create a recurring feature that we're basically reaching out to a bunch of my favorite illustrators in all of comics to do illustrations based on cryptids. And then we're going to have a case file that sort of puts together a bunch of the histories of these different cryptids. So it's basically a kind of zoo book for cryptids that's going to run on Fridays, interchanging with Fridays will always be sort of my true weird day, where it'll either be a chapter of Bluebook or Department of Truth Wild Fictions. So I hope you check that out. I'm sorry for shifting into plug mode. I feel like
that's
it's early
fine.
for that,
No, plug away. But once you guys reach out beyond Betty and Barney Hill, are you going to stay in the historical narrative, cases from the 50s and 60s? Or is there the possibility of going with some more modern things that have happened, like Rendlesham or the Tic Tac, for instance?
Rendlesham is one that Michael and I have talked about. I think the guiding light are stories that have multiple sources. That I think is the key thing, because what I love about working on this book, I have 5 books laid out in front of me that I can sort of cross-reference, and I can sort of pull different pieces from. Each one sort of, gives a different level of detail and all of that. And it's sort of, you can kind of boil it all down. When it gets down to a single source, it starts, it starts feeling a lot more subjective. And Rendlesham is perfect. Rendlesham, there are so many different things to pull from. There's so much written about it. And it's a case that I'm personally deeply fascinated in. I think we'll lean into that. And then on top of that, I do think we want to do, short pieces, that just, a kind of one and done, really fascinating story. And then, I know Michael we've talked about doing the more deep dive historical ones, the pre flying saucer, but that might be a little further down the road once we've sort of defined what what is in the auspices of Bluebook as a comic project.
Michael, what would be pre-flying saucer?
Like in the 1800s, there's all these stories of the airships, and they're exactly the same. They're instead of flying saucers, they're balloons, and there's weird semi-human looking people with fake beards on. It sounds ridiculous, but and some of the stories were clearly made up, but some of them were supposedly this is. However, we know the phenomenon seems to present itself in ways that match the time period for whatever reason. So those are some of those stories. I mean, they're fascinating, to me. They're they say they're from Venus and they're in a hot air balloon and they just throw down with the stuff. But it still ties into a lot of the same themes and has a lot of the same meanings to it. So I think all those things have to be looked at. I mean, and the longer you're in this field, the weirder it gets,
Yeah. It's bottomless in the weirdness. Yeah. And James, so I wanted to ask you this. With everything that is going on today, and I want to talk to you also personally about your UFO experiences, and ET. But today, it's all out there now. You've got the Department of Truth in the Department of Defense, and them controlling the narrative, and the UAP Task Force report. And the Senate Intelligence Committee. It's exactly what you write about in the Department of Truth, but it's happening in real time with the subject of ETs and UFOs. How closely do you follow what is going on in the media and Washington, D.C.?
I do follow it because, it's too fascinating not to follow it. But it is one of those things where I think especially after working on the Department of Truth for a while, and also just being, it's one of those things where when everyone's being upfront about information, it triggers a little skepticism. And so it's one of those things where it's one thing I like about the cases from a few decades back is that I don't feel like they're colored by the politics of the day and all of that. It feels like there's, it feels like there's something essential that's being tapped into, that, especially when you look at how the Air Force was interacting with it. It's it feels clear that the Air Force just didn't understand, and it feels like they still don't really understand. But it's one of those things where it's it made them nervous because it's obviously they don't want the one thing that fascinates me is the idea that they were that the government was really they were nervous about UFO sightings sort of spreading around the country for a number of reasons, but one of them was the idea that then if everyone would just spot a strange thing in the sky and just be like, oh, isn't that fun? We just saw a UFO. Then if all of a sudden the Russians started coming, people wouldn't actually say, hey, the Russians are coming. They would be like, oh, we just had an encounter. And it was something. So it's one of those things where it's I like to try to piece together the context, and it's hard to follow the context in the present. You can sort of see the context. So it's I'm taking all of the new information in, and it's all fascinating and all of that. And I'm very interested to see what I think about it 10 years from now.
Well,
if that makes any sense.
It's one thing to be a writer and write about Gotham City or UFOs and an alien invasion and Mars attacks, and then to turn around and see Tucker Carlson on Fox News talking about it. It's like it's the comic book that writing itself suddenly that this is now where before this would never have happened. It is a Hollywood film, but now it's come to life. Do you find yourself looking at this that way?
Yeah, no, I absolutely do. And I think that I think that life in general just feels so absurd. Right. Like, I don't know. It's, none of it makes any sense. And so I am, I'm taking it all as it comes, but it is something where I'm very grateful that I have the ability to tell my weird horror stories, and that, for the moment, because this is the thing. It's like it feels like there's a cultural moment that's happening again, where people are open to stories like the Department of Truth and like Bluebook and all of that. And because those are just so core to what fascinates me, I am very grateful for that, because it allows me to tell the stories I'm interested in telling and know there's an audience for them. But, ultimately it all comes in cycles. Like, I'm also very grateful for the fact that we're in a big moment where there's a big audience for horror stories. But when I started in comics 10 years ago, horror comics had basically, there was The Walking Dead, and then there were always one or two, but it was just it had sort of fallen away. And now the biggest comics once again are horror comics, and thankfully I write a few of them.
Now, Michael, you've been listening to late night conspiracy talk radio forever, but did you ever imagine that everything that you have been listening to over the years, not only Coast to Coast, but Fade to Black and others, that this would become reality? Did you ever see, right? Because it was our safe little world, right? And now it's happening.
It's weird. I never thought, I guess I thought in a very bipolar way, either it wasn't going to happen, or aliens were literally going to land on the White House lawn. And instead, it kind of just rolls off of our psyche and our social life now. It's so strange. When those videos came out, and the first time we really had the Department of Truth or the Navy or whoever saying, yeah, we recorded this, we don't know exactly what it is. Basically everybody reported it as aliens, and the world collectively shrugged. That was not an outcome that I saw. It's not that they shrugged it like they don't care, but they're like, oh yeah, well, that's weird. And then they moved on. That was not in my bingo card of what will happen with disclosure. Is mild curiosity was not one of them.
Now, I've got 15 seconds to the break. James, do you know the historical record about your buddy over here, Michael Oeming and Brian Glass? Do you know that story?
I don't think I do, and I very much would like to.
And this all involves Art Bell and the most famous night of UFO talk radio. Do you know any of this?
I want to hear it all. I want to hear it all.
Michael, can we tell the story when we come back off of the break?
Yeah, absolutely. But you tell it. You're better at this than I am.
No. I need you to back me up. This is the thing. I need to take a break right here. Our audience everybody has listened to the Area 51 caller. But the story behind it and its tie-in to Fade to Black and Michael Oeming and Brian J.O. Glass, it is an absolutely unbelievable. You know what? You can't write that in Hollywood. You cannot write it how it all went down. Right?
I can't believe I haven't told James about this. That's so strange.
I am blown away. Now, you know JL, right? James? Glass,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you have no idea what I'm talking about right now.
Well, I feel like I want to hear the story.
When we come back after this break, this is going to be the best 30 minutes of talk radio in James's life. He has no idea. Michael, he has no idea. This is going to be great.
Awesome.
This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. More with James and Michael and Brian J.O. Glass when we come back. We got to get Brian on the phone.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Why is it we're not very good with our health regimen until it's too late? We don't put oil in the car until the engine blows up. When the body's out of balance, your health is not so good. Give your body some love. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Try our Life Change Tea, which cleanses you from harmful intruders. A clean colon is one of the ways to bring the body in balance. We also carry organic supplements to help you get where you need to go. So do your body a favor. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. You can even visit our sales page to save some dough. Does anybody call money dough anymore? Anyway, if you're looking for short, helpful health tips, go to YouTube and punch in Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. So, log on to GetTheT.com, shop, get balanced, then learn some cool tips at Health Matters Now. You'll be glad you did. That's GetTheT.com.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from Rivermoon. Just click on the Rivermoon Coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B blend.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRARadio.com.
When you're in the house for longer periods of time, you can see them flying or running across the floor. Ooh, yuck. They're unhealthy, gross, and disgusting. Bugs. I loathe bugs. We keep a clean home, but occasionally bugs show up. Well, I found something that is tougher than bugs. Orange Guard. On contact, it kills hidden bugs, including ants, roaches, and fleas. Plus, Orange Guard is a residual repellent. All of the ingredients of Orange Guard are on the FDA generally recognized as safe list. Orange Guard may be used around food, humans, and pets. It comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Orange Guard. Available at orangeguard.com, Whole Foods, and Ace Hardware.
Gold loves chaos, uncertainty, and disarray. History shows us what gold does when people aren't sure about the government, the stock market, their jobs, or their retirement savings. Our national debt is skyrocketing. Gold and other precious metals are a defense measure against inflation and a stock market that might take years to recover. So what can you do right now to protect yourself? Call United Gold Group. We offer gold and other precious metals delivered securely within 72 hours. Are you worried about the stock market? We can also help you set up a real gold or silver IRA or a 401k. Safe and secure. United Gold Group makes gold ownership affordable. Call now and get up to $2,500 in free gold or silver with a qualified IRA. Call 800-753-8534. That's 800-753-8534 or visit unitedgoldgroup.com.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I didn't expect tonight to take the turn that it's about to, but we're going to do this. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, and our guests tonight, Michael Oeming and James Tynion IV, Michael Avon Oeming. But I brought up, this is the thing, James. First off, it's a small world. It's a very small world. I wouldn't want to paint it, but it's very small.
And many, many years ago, Michael and I are talking one day, and he tells me the story about the Area 51 caller. Now, let's back up for a second. And for our audience, and I just posted in the chat room, for those of you that don't know the true story about the Area 51 caller on Coast to Coast AM, you're about to get a dose of reality right now. Now, the historical part of this, James, Art Bell on the air live takes a call, and it's from an employee of Area 51 that has escaped, and that UFOs are real, and he's on the run, and they're chasing him, and Art is like, what? And at that moment, there's a little more to it, but I've got to condense this. At that moment, Coast to Coast goes off the air, and it gets replaced. The satellites actually go down, and the show is replaced by like the O.J. Simpson trial. Right? Is that right? Is that right,
I think
Mike?
I think it was just silence for like 10 minutes or something crazy.
Right. And so anyway, they come back on the air, and Art is freaking out. I can't believe it. This guy just called in from Area 51. The show went down. What did you hear? And Art starts taking phone calls, and everybody's losing their mind. This show is probably, this moment, one of the great moments in all of talk radio. Because you can't deny what just happened, right? This actually went down, and premier radio networks went off the air at the moment. This guy calls in and says he's escaped from Area 51. Now, I have listened to that broadcast hundreds of times, over and over again. What if this is real? And the sound of the Area 51 caller's voice is in my head. I know this guy. So Michael and I are talking on the phone one day, and he goes, dude, I know the Area 51 caller. I said, oh, say what? And he goes, I do. He's a friend of mine. And I said, Brian J.L. Glass. What? Right? Wait. Pump the brakes. And he goes, yeah. And he goes, this is what happened. He said, we were working. We're staying up late. I'm drawing. He's writing. We're coming up with scripts and time travel and Area 51. And we're listening to Art Bell. And we write out. And Brian decides he's going to call in and go on the script of what we're working on and read it. And then at the end of that, he would say, this is all a joke. But... so he calls in, and he goes on. He's got his thing, but what he didn't expect was that Coast to Coast would go off the air at a very critical moment, and all of this happens, right? Okay, so the next day, now I'm getting a little ahead of the story, but Brian is telling Michael, and they're talking. What? This is nuts. Well. The radio world, the conspiracy world, is freaking out. And what happened over the days, weeks, and months ahead, this thing turns into something that is out of control. And those are the facts. Now, this show has been listened to millions of times. And the mythology, the folklore, the pop cult, the historical perspective of this has not changed. Who was the Area 51 caller? Well, so Michael tells me, I'm like, I use some colorful language, but I call BS. And Michael goes, dude, here's his phone number, right? And this is all, Mike, back me up. This is exactly how it went down.
Yeah.
So he gives me Glass's phone number. And I go, okay, I'm going to call you right back. And I call him up, and he answers the phone. I said, this is Jimmy Church. Hey, man, what's going on? I'm like, holy crap, it is you, right? I mean, I know the voice. And he goes, it is. And I go, oh, my God. So we started talking, and I said, look, we've got to do this on the show. And he goes, yeah, we should. And I said, okay. So we set up this whole thing. And I said, now, look, I'm just going to go to open lines. I've got his phone number. I'm just going to go to open lines. I'm going to take a couple of calls, and then boom, I'm going to pick you up, and you are going to go full Area 51 caller. I don't know what you're going to say. It doesn't matter. But then we're going to go off the air. Okay? And we're going to recreate this. And then after that, I'm going to bring you back on, and you're going to go, ha, ha, ha. It's me. I'm the real Area 51 caller. And then we're going to tell the story about how this happened, and we're going to go back. So we do this. Oh, we do this. And so it's like, hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling? Hey, man, it's me. They're still chasing me. UFOs are real. And I'm like, oh, my God, it's the Area 51 caller. Yes. Yeah, and the UFOs are real. Click. I go off the air. And I immediately go to, what did I do?
It was Monty Python?
I go to the Monty Python music, and I run that for a couple of minutes, and I come back and I go, man, that was the strangest thing. That was the Area 51 caller. Did everybody hear that? My phone lines, right? And I took one call after another. Oh my God, I can't believe it. He's back. Oh my God, he's back. And I did one call after another for about 5 minutes, and then I said, okay. Everybody, I want to introduce you to Brian J.L. Glass, the real Area 51 caller, and I bring him on the air, and we tell the whole story. Did we bring you on too, Michael, or was
a little bit? But this was mostly Brian's story that I've, as a friend, I witnessed, so I was able to tell you. But I wasn't listening that night or anything. I just obviously I knew everything because every night we talk about what happened that night on our bell and stuff. So.
Right. And this is the thing, James. Nobody. I bring on Brian. It's his voice. It's obviously him. Nobody wanted to believe it.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to believe it. Nobody. No, that's not him. And this is the crazy thing about all of this is that Michael's career takes off. They did this when. How old were you?
This is like 20-something years ago. Because my son, I'm not even sure if he was born yet. He's 25. So.
Right.
Yeah. It's like 20, 25 years ago.
Literally working in their parents' basement, by the way, like the real story, right? Okay, so, but Michael's career takes off. Brian's career takes off, right? We all know what happens. Brian, over all of these years, and including Michael, they never talked about it. And this isn't part of Brian's CV, right? I don't think this
It should be because it's spun off a couple television shows. They sampled it on a Tool album, which I didn't know about until I'm listening to it. I'm like, that's Brian, and they just distorted it into like some crazy song. The amount of videos and stuff, and it's become an urban legend in itself.
It's
even though he's told the story on your show, people don't believe him.
It's
like the Department of Truth. It just became its own reality.
This is like right up my alley. Like how a story just like becomes, once you put it out there, it is its own living organism. That there's no, there's no wrestling the control back.
I literally got, without exaggerating, I got 1,000 emails. How could you? How could you do this? How could you lie about this? This is a hoax. You're hoaxing. You're calling this reality a hoax, and this is and it was just one email after another, and Brian and I absolutely did our very best to just present how it went down, and you can hear his voice. You can tell it's him. Nobody wanted to believe it. Nobody, and
I also want to just emphasize for people listening, like Brian, his intention the entire time was to tell Art and the audience exactly what he was doing, because it was one of these open line nights where it's like, if you're a vampire, call in. If you're a time traveler, like people are clearly having fun in a mixture of people who are probably serious. But he was never meaning to be guileful or to trick anybody. it was way out of his control when the satellite loses connection
feed.
with the thing. I mean, that's the weird part. Weirder than the fact that nobody wanted to believe it afterwards. How does the satellite lose connection like that? It's not a normal thing, and it went on for like 10 or 15 minutes. So like, no radio person in the right mind is going to have dead air for that long. We still don't know what happened. There's some videos that Brian's done some longer interviews and explaining everything. There's like an animation video of it, and people still just won't believe.
You know, it's so funny. Brian goes, man, I started telling people, you know, they were coming at me. I was like, man, go check out Fade to Black. It's right there. Tell the story. And he did everything he could to, you know, just set the record straight and let everybody know this is actually what happened. And nobody wanted anything to do with it. It was more like a how dare you? How dare you put claim on the Area 51 caller? And Brian couldn't win, man. He didn't win that night when the satellites went down. And then when he finally, after all of these years, and he's tried to do it a couple of times over the years, but certainly on Fade to Black, he laid it all out, James. Laid it all out, and you cannot... It was like the Mandela effect, come full circle. You're not going to be able to rewrite this history, pal. It really happened.
I love all of this, and I am going to go on such a YouTube rabbit hole after all of this. This is amazing. I love it.
Now, how well do you know Brian? Do you writers hang out in a secret place and
I think it's like, because I'm still a bit of a kid in the industry, so it's like I have not. I think we may have met in passing before, but even going to conventions, like Michael, you and I we only met like a week ago. We were chatting online for the last year, but it's it's both a small community and it's like there are some people you see like once every 2 months for a decade, and then there are a bunch of people they're just like different. Like if you're out of orbit with each other, like you go through the all of the different conventions and stuff differently. And I'm on I've been out on the East Coast, so it's
you're gonna go up to Brian and you're gonna go, dude, Area 51 caller, really? I was just on Fade to Black, and I have to hear about this like that. You, right? And just watch his face. Watch his face. This is another edition of Bluebook, actually.
Yeah, no, I was like listening to that. I was like, that would make a damn good comic.
This is the thing. You can't make this stuff up. Yeah. Right. And the way that it went down, not only with how Michael and I got introduced, which, by the way, he wrote me an email. Dude, this is Michael Oeming, and I listen to your show and draw every night. That was his email. I wrote him back and I go, BS. I did. I wrote him back. I said, prove it. Draw me something now. And he writes me back, coming at you, man. Give me 30 minutes. Right? And it was just like this weird synchronicities of everything falling into place. And shortly after that, the JL Glass thing surfaced, and the Area 51 caller in the UFO world is one of the pinnacles. It's the apogee. It's the top of all of this, and it's frigging Glass and Oeming, and it was just surreal. All of it. You just can't make this stuff up.
It's a great lesson too. As far as like he's come out and told people the truth, but a lot of people just still don't want to believe it, and we see this happen all the time in the UFO community, where somebody's been caught in some BS. And somehow they're still telling the same story afterwards, and people want to believe so badly. Sometimes it clouds our judgment, And
this is the other thing, is both of your careers did just fine, and I got so many emails saying the most ridiculous things. Brian's trying to just further his career. He's trying to market himself. I'm like, he doesn't need to do that. He hasn't mentioned it all of this time. Right?
There's no UFO stuff in any of his writing, and any of his creator-owned stuff. Anything he's written with me or on his own, none of it has to do with this stuff at all. So it doesn't make any sense for him to try to profit it. It just doesn't work. And no offense to the UFO audience, most of them aren't reading comics, so there's just no real crossover there for Brian to have like profited off of in some way. And even if he did in comics, there's a profit is like, I don't know, you make a couple $100 sometimes.
Well, and let me ask you about that, Michael, and I'm going to circle back and ask James the same thing. Late night conspiracy talk radio is theater of the mind. It's the best, man. You turn down the lights and you just let it roll, right?
Yeah.
How inspiring is that for you? And just go, do you ever do a creative tangent listening to late night talk radio and then your drawings going in another direction?
1,000%. It's so influential. Often I'm listening to stuff, whether it's your show or some of the few others I'll listen to, and I'll hear stuff, and then I'll just email myself that story or that podcast with a note in it about like, well, what was it about this that I heard that has spun off ideas? And those ideas that just spin off, I still want to like pin them to the original thing, so like if it's a UFO thing, I want to be able to tie it into something that was real. If it's an ancient architects kind of thing, I want to tie it into that stuff, so I want to take from the community, but I also want to represent and give back, if that makes any sense. But it's totally influential. Even to this day, it's some of the stuff that gets my brain going more than anything else.
And how do you do? How do you work, James? Do you listen to, late night talk radio, stuff like this, and suddenly get inspired?
I mean, I think that it's one of the things that I'm always wildly jealous of artists, the ability to like work while listening to people, like listening to radio or podcast or anything. Like I like can't even do music with lyrics. So it's one of those like while I'm working, I need to, it's like it's movie soundtracks and stuff like that. But it is something that I like I have always had a deep fondness. But it's like, I wish I had the kind of, back and forth relationship with it that Michael can talk to, rather than, this was something that I have friends who are a bit more, in my, cause like I was saying, it's like I was really into a lot of this, up through, like high school and then I had some friends who stayed much more invested, while I drifted off into like fiction and all of that stuff. And then as I've come back to it over the last decade, and all of it, it's been really enlightening. But it's such great fuel for the imagination, because it is something like the way you described it is like sitting back and just taking it all in. There is like, there's a romance to living in a strange world where there are a bunch of question marks all over the place. And I like living in a strange world that has a lot of question marks in it. So it is, I think I get at it a bit more through reading, all sorts of things. But it is, Have you had your own sighting? So I had a strange, not a UFO sighting. I had a strange encounter in that I still talk about with my friends who are. So sophomore year of college, we make the decision that we're basically going to do the cross country road trip. Where my friend and I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we were going to go With one other friend, we were going to drive from Milwaukee to Los Angeles and then spend 2 weeks going Los Angeles to New York, stopping all over the place. But to start that trip, we made the decision that we were going to do the Milwaukee to LA part in 32 hours straight so that we would have the rest of the 2 weeks to do the longer drive. Which basically put us, even leaving like first thing in the morning, we were driving through the Rocky Mountains at like 2-3 in the morning in March. And so it's like there's still snow on the roads, and it's, it is our first time ever driving through mountains that big, and you can't tell the difference between the mountains and the sky around you. And it's terrifying. And, and then there are trucks like barreling past us while we're like cautiously like eking our way through the roads. But we go around, we're going around these bends, very carefully in the snow. And all of a sudden, like, we come around a bend and there is just a thing standing in the middle of the road.
Say what?
There's a thing standing in the middle of the road. It looks like it's about 9 feet tall, and it has a dog-like head, and it's wearing something red, and it's just staring at us, and we just both start screaming.
Say, wait, whoa. Pump the brake. Michael, do you know this story?
Yeah, he told me about it.
Okay, all right. Now,
it's got a little Skinwalker vibe to it.
Okay.
Those stories.
Okay, let me recap here.
Yeah.
Rocky Mountains, middle of the night, you round the corner, and standing in the middle of the road is a 9-foot tall thing with a dog head.
Yeah. And so we and thankfully, I'm in the passenger seat. My friend Noah is driving. And Noah and I, we actually wrote a comic years ago called Ufology, which is it's pure fiction, but it still plays into a lot of this stuff. But Noah and I were Noah was driving, and if he had swerved to the left, we would have gone straight off the cliff. But thankfully he swerved to the right. We go around this thing, and then we're around the curve, as fast as it happens. And it's we pull off at the next stop, and we're just at that point I was still a smoker. So we were just pacing and smoking in the Rocky Mountain air, and just trying to process what we've seen. And it's years later, someone brought up the most plausible explanation for what we could have seen, which is still not fully plausible, is the idea is could have been a horse wearing a kind of security blanket that may have gotten on the road, but there wasn't a rider and all of that. And it's a horse in the middle of the road in 3 a.m. doesn't quite click, but that's the closest thing to a more rational explanation. So it's just ever since then we've talked about the time we saw the dog god of the mountains, and it's So it's just one of those things where it's just that story has stayed with me, and the thing that stayed with me more than anything is even in telling the story, I think the human brain does something when it encounters something that it can't categorize, and it basically it sears the image into your head in a way that's different than other memories, and it's just I don't know, I'm talking out my butt. I have no idea what that means in any way, but it's just I can still see what it was and when I see it, I can still kind of feel what I felt in that moment. And it is and it's a sharper image than most of my other memories. Right. And so it is something where it's just I've always related to people seeing something that doesn't categorize easy.
Now, hold on. Man, this is great. Why didn't we start off the show with this? Somebody help me. And I'm supposed to be in a commercial break right now, but screw that. Okay, let's... 2 arms, 2 legs.
Yeah.
Humanoid.
It was humanoid. It was it had shoulders, and it seemed to it's it was wearing a red shirt. In some way, but it wasn't a shirt, it was a shirt cloak. It was clearly it was cloth though, but it under its giant dog-like head.
So fur?
Yeah, it seemed that way. But I mean, this is like, it's like the image that's in my head. It's just like, it's seeing it in the light of the headlights in the snow as we come around the curve, and it's just this, like, and then it's also seeing it from the side when we come past it, and it's just like this kind of, like, it's passing a thing that's taller than the car. Like, that's the strangeness of the moment of, it's just like, you see it there, and then it's just like, we swerve to the right, so it would be coming by the left, and it's just like this, like, it is this blur of just this, it's the long head, and it's the core features of the long head and and like the cloak or the shirt.
This is like David Lynch. You know that, right?
Oh yeah, no, it's but I mean, like, that's the, like,
now
story. Yeah.
The other part of this, when you say it's vivid, right? It's like no other memory. This is perfectly clear.
Yeah.
And when you say dog head, you're being very specific, right? So
like a snout.
Yeah. And
it's, like, it didn't have like pointed ears. It's like, I don't remember, like, its ears, I think, were kind of towards the back. It had a long pointed snout that was like, it was sort of looking down, but at us. Its eyes were like here, and as it was looking at us.
Now, the obvious question, why didn't you guys go back?
Like, honestly, part of it was just not knowing first off, there was a third person in the car who, his experience of the whole thing was, here's the moment where, like, me and Noah just woke him up from napping because he's going to take over driving once we get out of the mountains. And he just wakes up to, like, us screaming in the front seat. And so, like, I think he was just a little bit more like, guys, you woke me up. I have to start driving soon. We need to get, like, into, like, I think Utah would be next. So it's just like, we got to get out of Colorado and into Utah. We just have to keep going. And I think he was, like, more humoring us. And he was like, I think we all have the friend with the very dry sense of humor. So he was kind of like poking fun at us, and we were poking fun at him. But it was one of those things where we, like, it did, and then there was also just the simple thing where some of the exits on the Rockies, and I might be remembering this incorrectly, but it seemed this way as we pulled off into this, like, there was nothing open at the time, but it's like we pulled off on the road. The only way to pull back onto the road was on the same highway path as we were. So it's just like, to double back and head in the opposite direction, we would have been on another track of road. Like, they were kind of staggered.
I got
on the side of the mountain. Like going back, like, we would effectively need to, trace back to a previous exit, like, try to get back on the road and try to repeat the, that leg of the journey and see if we saw it again. And it's like, what's the likelihood that whatever was there would still be standing there, like, 25 minutes later?
Yeah, I wouldn't have gone back. So don't worry about that. But did you and Noah see the same thing?
Yes.
Really? Yeah. So you guys are comparing notes, right? And you guys both have the dog head Bigfoot in the red shirt description.
Yeah. No, that is, no. And then it's something that, it's a story that the two of us have been, like, pulling out at bar nights for the last, like, almost 20 years now.
Yeah, that was my next question. Do you and Noah still hang out? So is his memory still the same?
Yeah, I was actually chatting with him earlier this week about it. Because I had once I knew that I was coming on this show, I had a suspicion that this story might come up, and we just referred to it as the story of, like, the dog god. We just, like, it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to tell him about the dog god of the mountains. And he's like, yeah, like it's, I think we're both, and it's one of those things where, both of us we have both always had, like I said, we wrote a book called Ufology together. We share an interest in UFOs, and then beyond UFOs, also the esoteric. And, at that point we were still like in high school. We both went through a big, Crowley magic with a K phase.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like all of that was real.
But how does
present.
this, you go through 20 years of your life without this kind of confirmation of reality, right? Or an alternate reality, I should say. But then this happens. And so you have this paradigm shift in your own belief system. But when you think about UFOs or Betty and Barney Hill or these fantastical, right, encounters and events, does this change the way you perceive somebody else's storyline, like Rendlesham or Betty and Barney Hill?
I think I find stories of encountering something strange, like going beyond UFOs. It's also like I also am like very fascinated in stories of hauntings, and like I feel like everyone, even people who don't touch like the true weird with a 10-foot pole, they have someone in their close family or they personally have had some kind of encounter with something outside of the ordinary. And people just sort of brush it off. Like my partner's grandma, she has, like she's just, talking about her like insanely haunted house, like, and has been for 20 years. And it's just like, oh yeah, sometimes the TV turns off, and it's just like, sometimes it turns on when you unplug it. And it's, they're one of those things. It's one of those things where I have like, I had a fascination with these stories before then. And I think afterwards, I'm always credible of the stories themselves. And I think that where my skepticism lies is when people try to claim that they found an answer, because it is one of those things where I think, all of this, and it's, in dabbling in all of this, and especially in working on Department of Truth, and I'm like reading through some John Keel and stuff like that. It's just like the idea of that all of these strange encounters have all of these commonalities that feel like it's us brushing up against something unknown that we don't have, like, in our imperfect brains and our imperfect like eyes and imperfect ears. We don't have the tools to process what we are brushing up against. And I do believe that people have encounters with things that that don't categorize, that fall outside the order of things. And so it is something where I find, and this is like this has always been my guiding light in wanting to write about these stories, because I'll tell you, in college I tried to write a fictionalized account of the dog god story, and it didn't work. It didn't work in fiction, because its power is because in fiction I tried to create an answer to what it was.
Sure.
But it was just like, but in the telling, it is about brushing up against something. Like, it is that unknown quality, and it is the importance of the, I do think that like the stories of brushing up against the unknown need to be in the ether. Like, people need to know that there are things that fall outside the bounds of what they perceive. Like, it's like, I think that it makes the world more like interesting.
Well, it does, but there's always a but. So, James, you're listening to a story, you're watching it on TV, and, me and my cousin Bubba, we were fishing, and then the dog god, he's 9 foot tall with a dog head, comes up on us, man, and we saw this thing. Well, you're calling BS. You have to. But now you're the crazy guy. Right? Yeah. You're the crazy guy telling the dog god 9 foot tall, Bigfoot snouted, right? With the red jacket on. You're that crazy guy.
Absolutely. But I think it's the benefit of being, a lifelong weirdo is I think I'm a little more comfortable being, people act the same way when I say it's like, oh yeah. No, I write comic books. Like when I go to like a family event, I think the reaction to my career as comic books is the same as me telling I saw the dog god. It's not quite the same, but that's the yeah.
Yeah, I'm a writer. And you just leave it there.
No, sometimes I that when I'm in a taxi cab, I just leave it at I'm a writer, because I'm a writer is a kind of boring answer. It's like, oh, what do you do? It's like the second that you're writing comics, then I start getting the pitch for Taxi Driver Man, which is the real thing that a taxi driver pitched me for 45 minutes in New York City once, which was
horrifying. That's a horror story right there.
Yeah, that was a scarier experience than seeing the dog god.
No doubt. You know what? We all have a taxi driver story in New York. I love those, but I have to share mine with you off of the air. But let me ask you this, James. I have to. What is it that you think you saw?
I don't know, and it is. At moments I do, if I need to categorize it in some kind of way, it's like I'll lean into the boring answer. It's the first time someone literally showed me a picture of a horse dead on, head down, with a security blanket for warmth in the snow, like you would have, it it clicked. But that doesn't
No, you would know.
Everything.
I mean,
and it also doesn't.
No, you and Noah would have said, "Dude, that was a horse."
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. A horse is pretty iconic. I
do think that there is something more to that moment, but I think that just the type of person I am is I enjoy the mystery of it, and I enjoy having brushed up against the mystery with and the thing that I've been more interested in pursuing is more, more stories of people who have encountered a thing like that, and what that means to them, in the way that, because it also, it's just I feel, I could get a little more metaphysical about it in terms of the moment in my life I was at. And it's there's a it's a transitional moment. And once again, it's dealing with, like I said, it's we were a bunch of, we were some Magic with a K nerds.
Dude, it was it could have been, right, like Carlos Castaneda, right? This is like a Carlos Castaneda moment, right? Where you're not supposed to stop. Don't stop. Don't confront whatever it is. Don't get that answer. Keep going.
Yeah.
If it makes you feel better, James, I mean, I'm sure your audience is familiar with, the Skinwalker Ranch stories. One of those is that I forget the Bigelow's company who was studying them, but there's reports of them seeing dog-headed men, in suits and shit like that, smoking cigarettes. And it's one of these bizarre, phenomenons playing with you story. But there are reports of these dog-headed men. And if you were driving from Colorado to Utah, you are looking at the what is that called? The Intuit Basin, the Utah Basin.
Yep.
You might have been going into the area where other people have seen this same thing. So it might not be as I don't know.
Or Anubis.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right?
No, it's some kind of threshold. It's literally, we were half asleep driving through the mountains, and a figure showed up at the threshold of if we swerved the wrong way, we would have met our deaths. And it's like, is this some like avatar of death warding us away because it wasn't our time?
I totally
like that was an answer that we were like talking about in that moment. But it's
I'm
just
so
like
with you.
that. I think I'm a little less in that mindset than I like in present day as I was like right back when. Although I've been revisiting a lot of that stuff for Department of Truth, like, and I still find it all deeply fascinating.
No, there's a deep meaning here, and the reason why I bring up Carlos Castaneda, there was a very interesting passage in one of his first few books, and I read it at too young of an age where it influences you, right, for the rest of your life. But there was this one thing about don't pick up a hitchhiker, right? And he gives this whole reason why you're picking up death, right? And you're going to go and whatever. But it was a very interesting. Never stop. You're in the car, you see somebody, you don't stop, or no matter what it, and here you have this very interesting moment where you guys swerve. This thing is there. I think there is something very deep and compelling with this. And not only, or I'm looking at, my Bigfoot sign right in front of me, or what if you just saw Bigfoot who just raided a campsite and stole somebody's jacket and was running across the street? I'm being serious now. I'm not being cavalier at all. Maybe it was Bigfoot. The snout and everything else is just a blur of, your mind filling in the gaps. But have you thought about that? You had a little Sasquatch encounter? That's why I was asking about the two arms and two legs.
More like, I feel like, at least in how I picture like a Bigfoot is like, I think I picture it with more of a broad stature. And this is something where it was like it was skinny in the way that it was tall, like, which is, I think, what leaned into the dog, us like calling it a dog, like it had a dog head. Like it was too bulky for it to be like a deer head, but it was like it had the long quality. Long face.
The Anubis quality.
Oh yeah.
Wow, that is. I mean, I've had a lot of guests on this show. I've had a lot of encounters. I've never had that one. James, that's just incredible. And the other thing for the audience, when I asked James what he thought that he saw, it was interesting to see your face. You've obviously thought about this a lot, and you don't have any answers.
Yeah. No, and I like not having answers. And I feel like there are answers, like, and I think that this is just like part of my worldview, is that it's like you kind of, you take in as much information as you can and you sort it and you try to understand it. And, like humans are like pattern finding creatures. Like that is the thing that we do better than like any other animal on the planet. And it is something where I like looking at all of the things in order and, seeing what the connections between them tell me about the world and myself. And when like the individual like pieces of information themselves, like they don't have as much meaning as the context to me, except for, like this has meaning to me in the context of like my life and my like my life at that time, and the my relationship with Noah, my relationship to like my college years and all of this stuff. There's just this strange encounter that just happened in the middle of it that just means that it's like, and like it, and then like that going back and looking at it and kind of grappling with it.
It's like the first two chapters of the Mothman prophecies.
Yeah, exactly.
I swear, it really is. If you think about it, the whole road trip aspect, and wow, that's incredible. I'm just blown away. Okay, We blew through the commercials. I apologize to everybody for that. But now let's circle back before we do run out of time. I want to point this over to Michael. You've given me this and the audience a timeline. You guys are in full-on real-time production with this, right? Are these deadlines you've given yourself so this comes out in a creative way?
Yeah, this is as a creator-owned project, like anything that you do that you're doing yourself outside of working with another production company. You set the schedule yourself, and we did want to be quick. We didn't want it to be something that people would have to wait for too long. And because I love the subject so much, and I'm drawing it in such a comfortable style, it's flowing. I'm ahead of schedule, even though I've got more projects going on now than I've ever had in my life, to the point it's going to be a super stressful, like 6 or 7 months. But the Bluebook stuff it just flows, so we're just having a great time with it. And it'll be regular. Like, we're not going to skip anything, or, we'll keep it consistent, and we're loving it. So it makes it easy. So
you're on a 2-week turnaround, James?
Yeah, we're a little ahead right now, and I'm going to try to work to get even further ahead. But it's, I basically passed along the first 30 pages, which is the first 3, chapters that we'll be releasing. And I'm hoping that, if the stars align in the next couple of days, I've cleared enough off my plate that what I want to do is before the weekend, I'm hoping I can knock out the next 30 pages. Because then it's, I think it's helpful to sort of see where, this next section of the story is going. So, and especially because this is the one that I imagine, this is the section, because as it gets into, the dreams and the hypnosis sessions like that, I have a feeling Michael and I are going to have some conversations on how exactly we want to depict that. And, because we're also just in terms of time and space and, all of this is there's going to be some picking and choosing of not in a way that will alter any of the stories, but some of the stories we might have to gloss over to focus on some key images and key things, and then discuss the others more in the narration of the story rather than actually seeing them. Those are the questions I'm asking myself, and I'm hoping that by Friday I have a good answer.
Well, you know what is amazing? I don't know if you've ever seen, if you haven't, you need to go back and check out Michael's videos of him drawing in real time, the creative process, because he's an actual artist, right? This isn't something done. He is inking, he's drawing. You get to watch the blue lines, and then look, I just said a technical thing, Mike. I said blue lines. Inking. You like that, huh? But you watched, and he is so damn great at being able to illustrate and draw these characters and these faces and the emotion, and you watch him do this in the vid, and he's so fast at it, and I hate him. I watch this process go down. I go, this isn't human. Nobody should have this kind of talent. But this is what you have at your disposal, right? You have this level of excellence that happens, nearly in real time. It's got to be amazing as a writer to have that in your back pocket.
Absolutely. And I'm extraordinarily lucky. I work with I love working with Michael on this book, and all of I am similar to Michael. I'm working on way too many projects all at once. Because I think it's how both of us function, and I think that's part of what drew us to each other is we both have this need to keep on working. But it is something where getting amazing comic book art in my inbox is the coolest feeling in the world. And I get to work with a bunch of amazing artists with such difference. Every book is a very different entity than every other book. And so it is just, it is something really special to sort of like play with, a bunch of like amazing creative people and build worlds and then also like, and try new things. That's the thing that is most exciting about Bluebook. I've never adapted material from real life in this way before, and it is it's teaching me things about because every decision is deliberate in a way that sometimes when you're writing fiction it can be a little more a stream of consciousness. You can kind of you get into a flow and things just start happening, and then you can sort of carve it down a little bit. But it's just when you're adapting something, every decision is deliberate. And, and I think as you grow as an artist or a writer, you start realizing what art is making a bunch of considered decisions in order. It's I don't know. It gives me life. I love it.
Thank you so much, James. Absolutely fascinating conversation tonight. Michael, you're the very best. Very soon, you guys are going to come down and hang out with me, and I really look forward to seeing you and Taki again soon. And the same thing with you, Michael, in the minute that we have left. It's got to be very inspiring for you to have James's ideas come in, and you as an artist, you get to just go into go time and create.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Michael. And again, the websites are Read Bluebook.
Yeah.
Hold on. As I said that, my readbluebook.com, my mouse literally died. And I've also got up Michael Avon Oeming.com. Where does everybody follow you on Twitter, James?
Read Tiny Onion. At Read Tiny Onion. So that's yeah. Go follow me there.
Yeah, there you go. I thought that there was going to be a fourth added into that. And Michael, where does everybody follow you on Twitter? The Fadernauts know, but just go ahead and say it.
It's at Oeming, Oeming, and I'll tag James a few times in there, so it'll be easy to find the Tiny Onion.
You guys, thank you for doing an improv overtime, and I snuck it up on you, but I didn't want this conversation to end. Thank you so much. Michael, behave. Give my best to Taki. James, go hang out in New York City, man.
All right, we'll do.
I'll talk to you guys. Thank you. What a great show. What a great conversation. Thank you guys so much. And with that, I've got to go straight to credits. You guys stay right there. I'll say goodbye after the show ends tonight. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Artist is Michael Avon Oeming. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast owned and copyrighted 2021 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night, right here, Richard Bleepin' Dolan. Until then, I want everybody to be safe. It's time to fade to black.